Hello, everyone. Raymond Moore, Kilted Prepper. How's everybody doing today? So, nice Monday morning. It is kind of foggy and yucky outside, and kind of rainy-ish. But I don't know if we're still feeling the after effects of Storm Ophelia or whatever it is. But yeah, we got decent amount of rain here this past weekend, and uh, didn't see too much damage or anything like that. At least nothing really reported in our area, and the winds were not that bad. And so nothing was knocked out. No one lost electricity. No one lost, any other utilities or anything like that. So good weekend, but I heard that some folks in North Carolina really got hit hard. So, hey, Chantel. Hey, Angry Taco. Hey, Joan. So good to see you guys here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys showing up every day, and it means a lot to me. So, um, but yeah, a lot of good way to start the week here, and I wanted to talk to you about something near and dear to my heart, and that's coffee with Ray. So as you guys know, I broke my French press a while back, and I was really bummed, but that really taught me an interesting situation. And since we are preppers, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to let this happen to me again. So, what I thought I'd talk to you guys about is coffee and what I've done. And when I broke my French press, I actually resorted to my good old fashioned percolator. Now, this, folks, this is actually Cynthia's parents' percolator, and this is made by Farberware. And now this is called the Yosemite, and this has been around for ages and is probably the primary staple percolator that just about every kitchen has if you have a percolator. But this is called the Yosemite. It's made by Farberware. And like I said, this has been around forever. There's knockoffs and everything like that. There's extra parts. Like I just bookmarked, the lid thing. See how ours is getting all kind of old and crusty and you can't really see through it. Well, I found a replacement for this puppy. And so, but your typical, throw stuff in here, but they even have strings for this and everything like that. Come on, get in there. But good old fashioned percolator. What I didn't like about it is how much time it takes to make coffee. Now, the wonderful thing about it is that it does make your house smell really nice in the morning. That smell of that percolated coffee and everything. But because this is a stove top, you could probably also use this on a fire or a camp stove or other things like that. So if you guys need coffee like I do during SHTF or TEOTWAWKI situation, the end of the world as we know it sort of situation, this is a great solution. And again, the negative, you got to wait for the coffee to boil and all this other than percolate and all this other stuff. So, but great percolator. I want to say, I've got some links for these down there. So if you're interested in getting one of these, please use my link so I can make a couple pennies off of the sale. And so, but really good solution. Now, another solution that I have here is, and I've had this probably 20 years or 20 plus years, and this is actually an espresso maker. And you see these all over the place. They are very popular down in South and Central America. And basically, they're an espresso maker. You put water in here. You put your water in here. You fill it up to this little dot right there. Put your coffee in here. Pop it in there. And then you screw the lid on. Really loud. And just stick it on your stovetop, and it makes espresso. So, and again, this wonderful smell that this comes out, you'll see the little espresso percolating out of this little hole here and everything. But this will basically make maybe a cup of coffee, which then you can thin it out maybe with a little bit of hot water or milk or something like that. But these are pretty inexpensive. And again, I've got the link down there. But this is a great fireplace, fireside, camp stove solution as well. And so, you know, really, really good thing. And again, makes great coffee. And so I love this thing. Like I said, I've had this thing forever. And so, but I also have like an small electric espresso machine that I use as well. But I've used this so much, it's not even funny. But great way to make a cup of coffee. It'll, you know, if you want some really high leaded, get you going in the morning stuff, this is what you make right here. And then I've got a great solution because I got sick and tired of looking for glass fillers of the glass insides to my stinking French press. And believe it or not, Batman recommended this. And you can't say really that he recommended this one, you know, personally to me, but you know, Batman recommended this. And the reason I say that is I just happened to be watching the Batman Superman movie. I love rewatching these movies. I'm a big fan of the DC movies. I'm a big fan of the Marvel movies and everything. So I got them all in my you know, watch list and on Amazon and stuff and everything. But it was interesting. And I want to say it was when I was watching Batman Superman, the Batman versus Superman movie. There's a scene where Batman and Alfred are flying on the plane, and you can look in the background and you can see Alfred pushing this down and making him some coffee. And then later in the scene, he brings him a tray of coffee and blah, 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 blah. But you can see this one in the background. And so I got on Amazon, checked it out. And you know what, folks? This is cheaper than buying the glass sleeve for my stinking other French press. And so, you know, guess what? I bought it. And, you know, if it's good enough for Batman, it's good enough for me. But this is a great French press, folks. And it's double walled, so it's insulated. It'll keep your coffee hot and everything. And again, the lid is double walled as well. It comes with an extra filter on it, you know, this little mesh and stuff, as well as a nice spoon, nice long spoon to stir your coffee. Or, you know, because when you do a French press, before you actually press your coffee, you put the coffee grounds in there, let it sit for a while, and then, you know, it does its thing and stuff. But then what you want to do after you do that is you break the crust of the coffee, and you'll see this wonderful foam come out and everything. But eventually what you do is you stir her up, and then you put the press in and press your coffee through and all that other stuff. But this, folks, is an insane great French press. Now, the negative is that you need hot water. And so I use an electric percolator for that and everything. It zaps my water really fast and everything. So, you know, but great solution. I'm super impressed with this. It makes 32 ounces or 1 liter. And the neat thing too, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but on the inside, see where he says, see the numbers in there? Let's see if I can shine a light in here. But I don't know if you can see the numbers, but there's, so you can make different amounts of coffee and everything like that. But I just fill it up to 32 ounces, and that's what I drink on in the morning time and stuff. But double walled, really great, super good, and it's cheaper than the glass sleeve to my other coffee maker. So and it's got a nice little arrow here to tell you which way to put your thing. But love it. And so this is like a totally great solution for making coffee. Now, here's another thing. Let's see, that's a small one for my wife. So We have two Pyrex percolators, one large for my wife to make her morning coffee, and a large one if a company shows up. We also have a metal camp one too. Yeah, good job there, Ken. And it's good to see you, bud. Haven't seen you in a while, so it's nice seeing you. Now, another thing that I like here, and this is something if you guys need your coffee and everything in an SHTF situation or TEOTWAWKI situation, this is Cafe Bustelo, and this is actually a Mexican espresso. So the coffee in this is a finer grind, but I love these things because they are vacuum sealed. These are coffee bricks. Now you can get on Amazon and get other coffee bricks with other different coffee, grinds or coffee, because this is a dark roast, so this coffee is pretty strong. And you would make it, actually it's made for using one of these here, but you can use it in your French press or something like that. But super great. Now I like these because these are vacuum sealed, and you can hear vacuum sealed, and they stack nicely. Now, again, you can get on Amazon and find other bricks of vacuum sealed coffee, but it is a great way for coffee to be stored in because it's vacuum sealed and, again, super, super hard. And, it is a great way to stock up on your coffee. And so I have several flats of these. I haven't broken into them. I don't use them. I actually drink other coffee and everything, but this is my SHTF backup coffee. If anything would ever happen, at least I still have my coffee. And because this is so strong, you don't use very much of it. Now, in my French press, I only use 3 tablespoons, maybe 3.5 tablespoons of coffee in this for a whole 32 ounce. So that means that I'm not really using that much coffee. And so, for example, the can or container of Folgers, I've been working on that container now for, gosh, months, because I'm only using 3 tablespoons of coffee in that. And so coffee lasts quite a long time for me. So this would last me quite a long time as well. So, but yeah, it's a great way to do this. Joan says, I store roasted organic coffee beans. Again, it's another good idea. And what you want to do with those, keep them in your freezer. And in fact, what you can do, which is becoming more and more popular, is actually get green coffee beans. You can order them on Amazon, and they're believe it or not, you can get a large amount for very little or a little bit of money. And so it seems to be less expensive, in the per pound, if you, again, doing your research and finding the right beans and everything like that. But you can roast your own beans in a cast iron skillet. And then when I lived in Central America, that is something that what a lot of families do down there. Because where I lived in Costa Rica, and I lived in a little town called Atenas, and it's way up in the mountains, and it's where a lot of the coffee is grown. Javalier grows their coffee there. Starbucks gets some of their coffee there. Some of the other more gourmet sort of coffee companies grow their coffee there. And so the coffee there in the Atenas region is just insanely great. And it just has a certain aroma, certain flavor. And it's interesting. Anytime I get a Costa Rican bean and make my coffee with that, I can smell it, and it just brings back those wonderful memories of living in Costa Rica and those days and everything of the coffee and everything, because everybody grows coffee. I mean, it's just something that everybody does. And so, you can have about 4 or 5, coffee bushes and pick them, dry them, and then you basically got almost a year's worth of beans. So a lot of families do that, but then they roast their beans in a cast iron skillet. Now, the key is, 1, you got to do this outside. 2, you got to have a good heat source. And what you do is you just keep stirring your beans, slowly roasting them in the cast iron skillet. And when you do that, you're listening for what's called the crack, because you're going to have the first crack of your beans. So you're hearing, you're stirring, and all of a sudden it sounds like cracking, like popcorn, crack, 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 crack. So that's your first crack. And so you can stir and continue doing that, letting it go a little bit more until you get to the second crack. Because and again, it does a second crack, and then I think it does a third and fourth crack too. But every crack gets your beans darker and everything. And so a lot of people, if you like a morning coffee, then you want to hit right between that, first and second crack. And the reason morning coffees are morning coffees is because the less time that they are roasted, the higher the caffeine level. Now, a lot of people think, oh, wow, well, French roast has got to be super strong and super caffeine. No, actually, the French roast is less caffeinated versus a morning roast, which is lightly roasted and sitting around the first crack, in between the first crack and the second crack of the coffee bean when you're sitting there roasting your beans. And so a lighter bean roast has actually more caffeine in it, and that's why it's called a morning roast. And then usually a morning roast also has more the citrus fruity flavors, where a French roast has more of those charred coffee dark brown flavors. And so learned a lot about coffee because I actually became friends with an organic coffee grower down there. And when I was down there, I was doing consultations and everything. People would come down and I'd give them expat tours and so forth and so on. But one of the places I used to take them was this, organic coffee farm, and they just made some of the most insane coffee in the world. So, can you grow coffee plants from green coffee beans? I don't know, Joan, to be quite honest. You might be able to. Now, the negative is coffee needs actually a certain humidity and a certain elevation, and then it's very important to have a very high nutrient soil base. Now, a lot of the coffee reason a lot of coffee farms do really well is because they are often grown in volcanic areas. And so the coffee that is grown in Central America is all around volcanoes. It's where some of the best coffee in the world comes from. In fact, in the Atenas area is a coffee called Geisha. And I've tried some, it's really good and everything, but it's the most expensive coffee in the world. It runs for somewhere around 250 to 500 plus dollars a pound for coffee. And it's very popular in Japan. And so, but you can give it a try. I don't know. You might be able to do that, but you have to be at a certain elevation, certain heat, certain humidity, and coffee's kind of a finicky plant and everything, but it likes that high heat, high humidity. And so a very jungle sort of environment is where coffee grows really well. That's why it also does very well in Africa and things as well. So, but so give it a try, Joan, and let's see. But yeah, I love my coffee, and it's important to me that during an SHTF situation, or TEOTWAWKI, the end of the world as we know it situation, that I have my coffee. So a lot of people talk about in the prepper arena, oh, coffee is a luxury and everything. Well, yes, coffee is a luxury. And it's one of the things that you guys want to think about when you are doing your preps and stuff. You do want to have some luxury items to help you get through some of these hard days, these hard times and everything. You wouldn't believe how much a good cup of coffee will raise your spirits. It'll raise your morale and everything. And during a SHTF situation or so forth, you're going to need actually some morale boosters and things like that. This is why good food is so important. This is why I constantly push Augustin Farms and Thrive Life, because both of those are very good foods. You want coffee and so forth. You want to have some teas, whatever it is that is your comforts and everything. Don't give up all your luxuries and so forth during an SHTF situation. And again, this is why I love these vacuum sealed, bricks, because they store for a long time on the shelf. As long as the vacuum seal is still good, your coffee is still good. So it's important to really think about these sort of luxuries and things during an SHTF situation so that you maintain moving forward. And again, it's part of your mental preparedness, having these luxuries and having some of these things that make you feel good, because you're going to have to get out there and fight the day, being in the garden, being in the forest, being whatever it is. But having a good cup of joe just really helps a lot. So hopefully that's been really good for you guys. Do me a favor. Speaking of coffee, I have just signed up for buymeacupofcoffee.com. And what you can do is go in there and buy me a cup of coffee. And so it's like $1, $2, something like that. But do me a favor, do that. Help me support this channel and help, continue doing forward and everything. And, it really helps me, and it helps me get new equipment like wonderful microphones and cameras and lights and so forth to help better my show so it's better for you. And then it also helps me in doing like Zoom classes and paying the subscription for that and everything like that. So by buying me a cup of coffee, you're helping me offset some of these costs and everything. So, and I would really, really appreciate it. So do that. Buy me a cup of coffee today. That's everything, folks. So great time, great morning. I hope you guys have a wonderful week this week. And there's no other better way to start the week off than with a good cup of coffee. So Raymond Moore, Kilted Prepper. We'll see you. Goodbye. God bless. You've been watching Coffee with Ray. Kilt on.